Want happier aging? Simple. Just follow the formula. Hello and welcome to my Agerhood. Let's be pals and get older together and like it most of the time. Most of the time I'm one happy dude, maybe not all the time. Martin Seligman, PhD, in his book Authentic Happiness, gives us a formula for understanding what happiness is and how we can use it to create more happiness at any age. It's perfectly suited for enhancing our aging experience and is consistent with all AGER teachings. The easy-to-understand formula will help us identify what we can change and where our priorities should be centered. Seligman has been an influential researcher in the field of psychology for decades. As a doctoral student in psychology in the early 70s, we examined his work with rats and the concept of learned helplessness, where pain was inflicted and the unfortunate rats eventually just learned to accept it rather than trying to escape. This theory has since been refuted, and Seligman has turned his attention away from causing misery to furry creatures to improving the lives of humans. This approach to understanding and modifying behavior is formally known as positive psychology, founded in 1998. Positive psychology departs from the traditional focus on studying mental disturbances to a health-oriented approach of examining human potential for well-being and life satisfaction. The major portion of his book provides very practical advice and tactics helpful for increasing happiness. Well, Seligman's formula is brief, so is Einstein's E = mc squared, but both represent far more complexity than is indicated by the symbols. Fortunately, Seligman's formula does not require an education in physics or math and is easily interpreted. That's because we have had a lifetime of experience in learning the rules of being happy without studying formulas. The advantage of a symbolic description of happiness for agers is that we can examine the components and see where we can narrow in on areas that need attention and improvement. Seligman's formula breaks happiness down into easily interpreted units, some of which we can manipulate and some which need to be accepted as relatively fixed. Here's the formula. H = S plus C plus V. Happiness equals set range plus circumstances plus voluntary control. We'll take a closer look at each component. Happiness. As we age, happiness needs to take on a broader perspective, beyond just momentary pleasure, as in eating a piece of chocolate, but a feeling of general satisfaction with life. It requires attention to all the ingredients of a positive AGER lifestyle, our pal, such as proper diet, exercise, social contact, stress management, active learning, and sufficient sleep. You won't find lasting happiness by merely studying happiness. You need to actively devote time and attention to building the foundation and superstructure. It requires skill development and practice, 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 just like the journey to Carnegie Hall. Set range. This refers to the set point of happiness that we get from our parents through genes and learning from them as we grow up. If we were fortunate to have had a set of happy and optimistic parents, we have a boost in the same direction in our own lives. If not, don't despair, because we can relearn and alter our perspectives to visualize a more positive horizon. The set range may be an initial barrier, but not a blocked road to happiness. Circumstances. This represents factors such as availability of money, quality of relationships, employment, and health, among others. These are not always easy to manipulate and control, but neither are they set in concrete. They represent situations and circumstances that impact our happiness and may result in unpleasant situations we'd like to alter. Take marriage or some other form of a committed relationship. The relationship will impact and influence many of the behavioral choices we make. It may influence where we live, how we spend a portion of our time and money, and the emotions we experience. But within the framework of marriage or other relationship is the freedom to make our own decisions about the nature and quality of our lives. We don't have to be victims of circumstances that are within our realm of influence. Voluntary control. This is clearly where we are in charge of what happens in our lives without any outside strictures such as genes or circumstances dictating our choices. Let's examine some criticisms and reaction to Seligman's H equals S plus C plus V. Before I buy into an idea or proposal, I always like to examine the other side of the equation, or formula in this case. It's not surprising that positive psychology has been criticized for lack of scientific rigor by researchers in other fields and even within psychology itself. Physicists and mathematicians like to be able to plug numerals into their formulas, and many do not accept Seligman's. Some psychologists, especially those from earlier traditions such as behavioral or clinical orientations, criticize positive psychology as well. They describe a lack of precision in terminology and research design, among other issues they believe lead to questionable conclusions. There's a modification of Seligman's formula recommended in the book The Happiness Curve by Jonathan Rausch. He suggests adding the letter T to represent time matters. This connects the formula to aging, or passage of time, which is not under our control. We can't manipulate the ticking of the clock. I like the addition. In another video, we'll examine the theory of Rausch's happiness curve, which maintains that later life brings a higher level of happiness than younger stages. Maybe aging isn't something to avoid after all. I think the Seligman formula sets the stage for determining what we can control, what is less open to our influence, and what we can't modify at all. That can help us learn to focus on what is manageable in our aging lifestyles and what to accept as is. I recommend that you spend time in the upcoming minutes, hours, and days of your life thinking about your happiness level as it is now and what can be adjusted in your personal formula. Let's learn to be older and happier most of the time. Humpty here, the Happy Decade Dude, wishing you for happier hours starting now.